Nico Valenti found the curvy nurse handcuffed to a hospital bed while her stolen badge was opening his vault 3 floors below. Jasmine Cole had been accused of stealing medication, seducing a patient, and selling the route that endangered Nico's wounded brother. Hospital security displayed her badge report as proof, then dragged her through the VIP lobby in torn teal scrubs while donors filmed. But Jasmine knew the report contained one impossible detail. The vault door recognized her credential. At the exact minute, both of her wrists were recorded inside steel cuffs. If Nico believed the system, she would become the disposable nurse who betrayed him. If he believed her, he would have to admit his most trusted security director controlled the hospital, the evidence, and the armed men guarding his family. Then the vault opened again, and a live monitor showed Nico's missing brother inside. Jasmine raised her cuffed hands and said, "Unlock me, or your security system will bury us both." Nico Valenti did not reach for the handcuff key. He stood inside the isolation room with rain darkening his black coat and studied Jasmine as though trust were a weapon she had concealed. 2 hospital guards remained behind him. Security Director Marcus Ray watched from the doorway with one hand on his radio. Her badge opened the restricted pharmacy, the family elevator, and Vault 3, Ray said. "We found missing medication inside her locker." Jasmine sat upright, despite the cuff connecting her left wrist to the bed rail. Her right wrist carried a red pressure mark where the second cuff had been removed for examination. "You found a sealed pharmacy pouch inside a locker your officers opened without me present," she said. The custody camera was disabled before the search. Ray smiled without warmth. "You are in no position to teach us procedure. Procedure is why your evidence can be challenged." Nico's gaze moved toward the wall monitor. The live security feed showed Vault 3 beneath Valenti Memorial Hospital. Its steel door stood open. A man lay on the floor beyond the threshold wearing a patient gown. Nico recognized his younger brother, Daniel. He crossed to the monitor. Daniel was moved to the rehabilitation wing at 6. Jasmine answered before Ray could. "The transport record used my credential at 6:12. I was placed in restraints at 6:07. The room's body camera, nursing log, and restraint order could verify both times. Her badge had traveled while she could not." Ray claimed Jasmine passed it to an accomplice before detention. She told Nico to examine the live reader status. The vault system displayed her badge number, biometric confirmation, and a green bedside presence token. That token was supposed to prove the nurse remained with an assigned VIP patient while requesting remote access. Jasmine had helped design the safeguard after a previous security breach. "Someone copied my badge and forged the presence token," she said. "Only credential administration can create both." Ray controlled credential administration. The guards looked toward him before they looked toward Nico. That order of attention exposed the power structure more clearly than an accusation. Ray lifted the handcuff key. "She is inventing a technical story because the evidence is visible." Jasmine extended her wrist but did not beg. "Unlock me and preserve the access report before anyone overwrites it." Nico asked what happened if the vault remained open. "Its environmental isolation closes after 12 minutes, she said. "If Daniel is unconscious inside the room, may become unsafe before a rescue team clears security." She did not dramatize the mechanism or offer instructions for bypassing it. Her concern was the patient, the timer, and the authorized response. Nico told Ray to dispatch the hospital rescue unit. Ray said only his tactical team could enter the vault level. Jasmine knew that was false. Hospital policy required a clinical responder whenever a patient appeared on a restricted floor camera. "Call Dr. Priya Shah and the rapid response nurse," she said. Ray moved toward her bed. "You no longer direct anyone here." Nico stopped him. "She directs the patient response until a physician takes over." It was not trust yet. It was recognition that competence mattered more than status during crisis. Ray unlocked the cuff. Jasmine rubbed her wrist once, then asked a guard to photograph the mark, the key, and the monitor time. She refused Nico's offer of a private elevator. "We use the public clinical route with recorded access," she said. "Nobody can later claim I entered the vault alone." "Doctor," Shah met them outside the restricted stairwell with 2 nurses and emergency equipment. Ray tried to exclude the clinical team. Nico repeated Jasmine's instruction and required the doors opened under police-visible cameras. Inside Vault 3, Daniel breathed shallowly beside an empty document cabinet. Jasmine stayed behind Dr. Shah and provided only the history she personally knew. Daniel had undergone surgery 2 days earlier and should not have left monitored rehabilitation. His wristband had been replaced with one carrying Jasmine's employee number instead of a patient identifier. The substitution converted a missing patient into an apparent staff access event. Dr. Shah stabilized him and ordered immediate transfer to intensive care. Beside Daniel's hand rested Jasmine's physical badge. Ray reached for it. She blocked him with a verbal warning rather than touch. "Do not break the scene before independent custody arrives." Nico called Lieutenant Naomi Brooks, a city investigator already reviewing hospital access fraud. Ray objected that Valenti Security handled private property. "My brother is not private property," Nico said. The sentence changed the room. While they waited, Jasmine examined the access display without touching it. Her badge had opened the vault twice. The first entry occurred while she was cuffed. The second occurred 3 minutes before Nico entered her room. Between those events, the system registered an administrative credential called MR01. Ray's initials appeared in the only gap. Then, every access line vanished from the screen. Someone had begun deleting the report while they watched. The forensic clock in the upper corner continued running even as access lines disappeared beneath it. Jasmine read the remaining times aloud, so Dr. Shah's body camera preserved them independently. The first mirrored entry lasted 91 seconds. The second remained active long enough to move Daniel replace his wristband and open the document cabinet. Ray ordered her to stop interpreting a system under investigation. Jasmine answered that silence would benefit only the person deleting it. Brooks had not yet reached the vault, and the local recorder might be the final surviving witness. Nico repeated each timestamp after her creating a second voice on the clinical recording. For the first time, he used his authority to preserve her professional account instead of replacing it. Ray watched them with an expression that revealed the deletion had failed to erase the meaning quickly enough. Then the screen displayed one final warning before going black. Mirror credential scheduled for network release at 1200. The vault incident was not the end of the attack. It was a test for something designed to open every protected door at once. Lieutenant Brooks arrived with a digital forensics officer before the deletion completed. He disconnected the access console through approved evidence procedure and preserved its volatile record. Jasmine described what she had seen without claiming the missing lines could be recovered. Ray accused her of manipulating the display before anyone entered. Dr. Shah's body camera showed Jasmine remained behind the clinical team and never touched the console. The accusation failed because ordinary documentation had survived private authority. Daniel entered intensive care under independent hospital security. Nico followed the stretcher until Dr. Shah asked him to wait outside the treatment line. He obeyed, without demanding the floor be cleared. Jasmine noticed the change because powerful families usually treated privacy as removal of everyone else. Brooks secured Jasmine's physical badge in an evidence sleeve. Its edge showed a thin cut near the embedded chip. Someone had opened the laminate and inserted a duplicate component without changing the photograph. The badge was both a stolen object and the main proof of how the system had been compromised. Its access report could reveal the plot. Its physical alteration proved why Jasmine's credential expertise mattered. Ray insisted she modified it herself. Jasmine pointed to the issuance date and maintenance seal. Credential Services inspected the badge 8 days earlier after she reported intermittent reader failures. Ray personally signed the service return. He had custody before the suspicious events began. Nico turned toward him. "Why did you inspect her badge routine maintenance, then produce the work order?" Ray said the file had been archived. Brooks requested it through hospital counsel. The archive contained a blank page approved under Jasmine's supervisor account. Her identity had been used to authorize the alteration that framed her. Jasmine asked Brooks to compare the account time with her patient care log. At that moment, she was inside Nico's private recovery suite, treating a wound beneath his shoulder. Nico remembered the encounter. He had refused a second nurse because secrecy mattered more to him than staffing rules. Jasmine insisted another clinician remain within call range and documented every supply. He called her excessive. She replied that power did not make a single witness room safe for either of them. Now her insistence created an independent time record, clearing her from the false work order. "You protected yourself from me," Nico said. "I protected both of us from a story neither could disprove later." He looked toward the torn teal scrub top visible beneath her borrowed coat. Ray's officers had dragged her through the VIP lobby, while donors and reporters filmed. Anonymous posts already described her as Nico's secret lover, who stole medication after he rejected her. The public wound was not a single insult. It converted professional access into sexual access and made every technical explanation sound like obsession. Nico asked why she never called him after security detained her. "Ray confiscated my phone and told staff, 'You ordered the restraints.'" Nico had authorized temporary isolation after hearing a nurse's badge opened the family vault. He had not asked whether the nurse was conscious, represented, or able to respond. His command created the authority Ray used to cuff her publicly. "I made the first decision," he said. Yes, Ray chose the humiliation. Yes, both facts can exist. Jasmine would not allow him to purchase innocence by locating a worse man. Brooks received a preliminary recovery from the access console. The deleted report showed MR01 creating a temporary mirror of Jasmine's credential. The mirror opened Vault 3, the restricted pharmacy and Daniel's rehabilitation room. It also opened the executive records floor where succession proxies were stored. The breach threatened more than one patient's safety. Someone had created a repeatable access pathway capable of moving people medication and governance documents under disposable staff identities. Ray claimed MR01 meant medical response, not his initials. Hospital policy assigned medical response accounts to Dr. Shah's office under PR codes. MR01 belonged to Master Route Administrator 1. Only 3 people knew its rotating authorization phrase: Ray, the hospital's chief technology officer, and Nico. The technology officer had been hospitalized in another state for 2 weeks. Nico said he had never used the account. Jasmine asked whether he had ever approved a credential packet without reading its technical appendix. He remembered signing a security renewal after his brother's surgery. Ray had presented it beside Daniel's bed. The packet may have captured Nico's authorization without explaining the mirror credential. Brooks ordered the document preserved. Hospital counsel reported it missing from the executive archive. The empty cabinet beside Daniel had held security renewal originals and family medical proxies. Whoever moved him into the vault removed both. Ray received a phone call and stepped away before Brooks could stop him. The fire alarm sounded on the executive records floor. Smoke appeared on the corridor cameras. Ray ordered his tactical team upward. Jasmine recognized the diversion. "The records are already gone," she said. "They want us watching the fire while something else moves." Brooks asked what remained vulnerable. Daniel's ICU room, Jasmine's badge evidence, and the backup credential server were under independent guard. Nico's mother, Teresa, remained inside the private family chapel, with the only paper copy of Daniel's succession proxy. The chapel access log showed Jasmine's mirrored badge opening its door. Nico ran toward the elevator. Jasmine followed with Dr. Shah because the camera showed Teresa collapsing beside the altar. When the doors opened, Ray stood over her, holding the missing proxy and Jasmine's duplicate badge. Ray raised both hands before Nico could accuse him. "I found Teresa unconscious and recovered these from the floor," he said. Jasmine remained behind Dr. Shah while the physician assessed Teresa. The older woman had a pulse, normal breathing, and no obvious injury. She regained awareness within a minute and appeared confused about why she was in the chapel. Dr. Shah ordered evaluation in a monitored unit. Jasmine did not speculate about the cause. Teresa said a female nurse invited her to sign an updated family consent form. The woman's face remained hidden beneath a surgical mask, but her badge carried Jasmine's photograph. Teresa followed because she recognized the nurse who had cared for Nico. The stolen identity exploited trust Jasmine earned through real work. Ray claimed he saw the false nurse leave through the sacristy. Brooks arrived and asked why his body camera was inactive. Ray said the chapel signal interfered with it. Hospital cameras used local recording and did not depend on signal. He had disabled his own evidence before discovering the scene. Brooks collected the duplicate badge and paper proxy. The badge's photograph looked genuine, but the employee number ended with a different check digit. Jasmine explained that a mirror credential should preserve the original number. This was a newly manufactured card, not the chip inserted into her physical badge. The conspirators possessed both credential lamination equipment and master administration access. Ray could provide each, but someone else might be using his authority. Jasmine refused to collapse the investigation into the most convenient suspect. That restraint mattered when Ray produced a message from Hospital Chief Financial Officer Celia Ward. It instructed him to bring the proxy to the chapel and protect Teresa from Jasmine. Celia managed the Valenti Medical Trust and had requested the security renewal packet Nico signed. She also controlled the property scheduled to transfer after Daniel's succession vote. Ray could be her accomplice, her instrument, or a target she intended to discard. Nico wanted both detained. Brooks reminded him that suspicion did not equal lawful grounds. Jasmine asked where Celia was now. Her office calendar showed a donor meeting at the Riverfront Rehabilitation Center. The center was scheduled for sale if Daniel's proxy transferred to Teresa during incapacity. Celia would gain a consulting payment when the transaction closed at noon the following day. The ticking clock became visible. Daniel had to remain unavailable. Teresa had to appear confused, and Nico had to sign the new security packet before the sale. The proxy in Brooks's evidence sleeve contained a replacement page, transferring the deciding vote to Celia's committee. Jasmine identified the page because she had witnessed Daniel sign the original after surgery. Hospital counsel argued a nurse had no role in succession documents. I witnessed his capacity consent and the fact that the page count was 9, Jasmine said. This packet contains 10. Her professional presence supplied the anomaly nobody expected her to remember. Nico looked at her differently. He had tolerated her in Daniel's room because policy required a nurse. Now the detail preserved by her invisible labor threatened a transaction worth millions. If you had left when Ray suspended you, none of us would know, he said. That is why systems punish the worker who notices before they remove the evidence. Brooks suspended Ray's access pending investigation and assigned city officers to Teresa and Daniel. Hospital counsel restored Jasmine's badge privileges temporarily. She refused. A temporary restoration inside a compromised system would let someone manufacture more activity under my name. She requested a paper visitor credential and remained off duty. The decision protected the investigation, but ended her income immediately. St. Catherine Trauma Network had offered Jasmine a security-cleared nursing position in Washington, D.C. 2 months earlier. She had declined because Daniel's recovery program needed continuity. After the public detention, the recruiter renewed the offer with relocation, housing, and credential support. Jasmine accepted from the chapel corridor. She would leave Philadelphia in 48 hours. Nico overheard only the final confirmation. "You are leaving," he said. "Your hospital cuffed me, displayed me to donors, and built a criminal case through my credential. I can correct that. You can help expose it. Correction requires authority that does not depend on your private approval." The distinction stopped his instinct to offer money or protection. Brooks obtained a warrant for Celia's office and credential lab. The lab was empty, except for a shred bin containing fragments of teal badge laminate. Technicians reconstructed part of Jasmine's employee photograph. The access report server showed remote administration from the rehabilitation center. Celia's location now connected directly to the credential scheme. Ray disappeared before officers could collect his phone. His vehicle left the hospital garage using Celia's executive override. Nico received a call from him minutes later. Ray claimed Celia had kidnapped his daughter and forced him to frame Jasmine. He offered to exchange the missing security renewal packet for protection. Brooks arranged a controlled meeting at a public police facility. Ray refused. He demanded Jasmine come alone to the Riverfront Center, because only her badge could stop the pending sale. Jasmine looked at the paper visitor pass clipped to her borrowed coat. Her real badge remained sealed in police evidence. The demand proved Ray either misunderstood the system or expected another credential bearing her identity. Then, the rehabilitation center's camera feed appeared on Nico's phone. Ray's teenage daughter sat tied to a chair beside Celia. Daniel's empty wheelchair stood between them. The wheelchair was not proof Daniel had been moved again. Jasmine asked Nico to call the independent officer outside his brother's ICU room. Daniel remained there under Dr. Shah's care. Celia had used an empty prop to widen panic and make the family divide its protection. Ray's daughter Maya appeared conscious but frightened. Jasmine refused the demand to approach alone. A hostage does not become safer because the kidnapper chooses the witness, she said. Brooks opened formal negotiations, while police secured the rehabilitation center perimeter. Nico offered Valenti security, but the lieutenant kept city command. He accepted the boundary after Jasmine reminded him that private men could destroy evidence even while attempting rescue. Celia sent a second message, showing the missing security renewal packet and Daniel's original 9-page proxy. She wanted Nico to authorize the property sale and reinstate her executive access. In return, she promised to release Maya and provide records proving Ray designed the badge scheme. Ray called separately and accused Celia of using his daughter after he refused to move Daniel. The competing stories could not both be complete. Jasmine asked Brooks to examine the live feed's credential panel. The display showed her employee number holding the building in clinical lockdown. Someone had made her false credential essential to opening the doors. Celia wanted Jasmine physically present so later records would place her at the center of the crime. Brooks used public fire and medical authority to request entry without relying on the compromised hospital system. The center's counsel denied an emergency existed. Maya solved that problem by knocking her chair against a metal cabinet 3 times. The gesture created visible evidence of distress on the live feed. Police obtained an emergency entry order. Jasmine remained inside the command vehicle and reviewed the center's clinical layout. She had supervised Daniel's first rehabilitation assessment there. The building contained 2 medication rooms, a therapy pool, and a secure records archive behind the executive suite. The original proxy likely remained in the archive with transaction documents. Maya appeared inside the therapy room, where large glass walls allowed camera control from the executive office. Officers entered through the public lobby, while fire personnel opened an independent evacuation route. Celia triggered a building lockdown and cut the live feed. Jasmine warned responders that patient rooms on the East Wing might remain occupied despite the sale closure. Police found 6 elderly rehabilitation patients with no staff present. The crisis threatened innocent people beyond the Valenti family. Emergency teams evacuated them before continuing toward Maya. Ray appeared at the loading dock and surrendered to city officers. He carried no weapon and asked them to save his daughter. His phone contained messages ordering him to plant medication in Jasmine's locker, alter her badge, and remove Daniel from rehabilitation. The sender used Celia's executive account. Ray admitted obeying the first 2 orders after Celia threatened to expose years of unlawful surveillance he conducted for Nico's father. He claimed he refused to move Daniel, so Celia used a disguised nurse and his master account. His confession explained participation without excusing it. Police recovered Maya from the therapy room without injury. Celia escaped through the records tunnel, connecting the center to an adjacent parking structure. The original proxy and renewal packet disappeared with her. Investigators found a portable badge, printer-copied staff, photographs, and a schedule of 32 credential mirrors. Most belonged to contract nurses, transporters, cleaners, and night clerks. The conspirators selected workers whose authority was real, but whose institutional status made them easy to discredit. Jasmine's case was one entry in a broader exploitation system. Her invisible labor had kept VIP patients' emergency medications and secure rooms coordinated. Once that labor stopped, the hospital lost track of Daniel Teresa, controlled access and succession documents within an hour. Nico saw the consequence of pricing her work as replaceable. Ray entered custody for evidence planting unlawful restraint, unauthorized access, and related conduct subject to formal charges. He agreed to provide the location of surveillance archives and testify against Celia. Maya received independent protection rather than Valenti custody. Jasmine returned to the hospital to complete her witness statement. Her Washington recruiter sent travel documents and a furnished apartment address. The car would collect her the next afternoon. She possessed an immediate beneficial freedom exit. Nico met her in a public conference room with the door open. He placed her termination letter on the table. Hospital counsel had prepared it for his signature before Daniel entered the vault. "I did not sign," he said. "You signed the detention order." "Yes, that was enough for Ray to put me in cuffs." Nico did not defend the distinction. What does accountability require? Jasmine named public correction, independent investigation, compensation without confidentiality, and restoration of every worker framed through a mirror credential. "And for you, my record cleared before I leave. Nothing else. You do not get to convert what I survived into a private position beside you." He accepted the boundary. Brooks entered with news that Celia had scheduled an emergency board vote for 10 the next morning. Using Daniel's original proxy, she intended to sell the rehabilitation network and dissolve the hospital's credential department before investigators completed the audit. The city could freeze suspect records, but could not stop a lawful corporate vote without direct evidence of fraud. The Access report could provide that evidence. Its recovered log showed Celia's account only as a remote endpoint, not the person operating it. Then Daniel woke and asked for Jasmine. He remembered the false nurse who moved him into the vault. Before losing consciousness, he pulled away her surgical mask. The woman was not Celia. It was Nico's mother, Teresa. Nico asked Daniel to repeat the identification only after Dr. Shah confirmed he was oriented and able to speak. Daniel described Teresa's pearl earrings, the perfume she had worn in the chapel, and the tremor in her left hand. He said she apologized while attaching the false wristband. Jasmine did not interpret the apology as innocence. Teresa possessed Access knowledge and a direct role in moving him. She also appeared confused after the chapel incident. Dr. Shah transferred her to an independent neurological team before police questioned her. Testing found no immediate condition preventing an interview, though complete evaluation continued. Teresa asked for Nico and Jasmine together. Jasmine entered as a witness after Brooks approved and kept the door open. Teresa admitted Celia convinced her Daniel had signed a private plan to test hospital security before the succession vote. The false nurse disguise supposedly protected his privacy. Teresa moved him from rehabilitation, attached the staff-coded wristband, and brought him to Vault 3. When he became unresponsive, she panicked and called Ray. Celia instructed her to leave Daniel and go to the chapel with the original proxy. There, a disguised assistant gave her a drink and took the document. Teresa remembered little afterward. Her actions remained serious, even if deception shaped them. Nico struggled to separate love for his mother from the harm she caused. Jasmine did not make the judgment for him. Brooks asked why Celia needed Teresa rather than another employee. Vault 3 required a family presence authorization in addition to Jasmine's mirrored badge. Teresa's identity supplied the second factor. The Access report could therefore show two legitimate people entering, while neither understood the full action attributed to them. The system did not merely copy badges. It divided consent across manipulated participants, so no single person appeared responsible. Jasmine called it fragmented authority, without describing technical exploitation methods. Her professional point was simple. If security combined credentials, the system also needed independent confirmation of shared intent. The current design assumed proximity meant consent. That assumption allowed Celia to construct a plausible access trail. Teresa agreed to provide a statement and surrender her board vote during investigation. The choice weakened Celia's expected majority, but did not stop the sale. Daniel's original proxy still controlled the deciding vote. He was medically capable of revoking it, but the document was missing, and the board charter required physical presentation. Jasmine remembered the 10th replacement page found in the chapel packet. Its paper stock differed slightly from the original 9 pages. The hospital's secure print room used embedded fibers visible under verification light. Celia's foundation office used ordinary executive paper. If the original proxy appeared at the vote, Jasmine could identify whether its pages had been substituted. That would not prove the entire credential conspiracy, but it could stop reliance on a corrupted document. Nico asked her to attend the board meeting. Her car for Washington would arrive 1 hour after the vote began. She could testify and still leave if the meeting stayed on schedule. Jasmine agreed under conditions. She would speak as an independent witness. Nico would not interrupt or threaten dissenters, and city investigators would control the access report. Every contract worker named in the mirror schedule would receive counsel. Nico accepted. He also signed a temporary order removing Valenti security from the hospital and placing public clinical safety under an independent administrator. The action exposed his family to scrutiny and reduced his control during crisis. It was the first structural cost he accepted before knowing whether Jasmine would stay. That evening, Brooks recovered the missing security renewal packet from Ray's surveillance warehouse. Nico's signature appeared beneath a clause granting Celia emergency authority to mirror credentials during family threats. He had signed without reading it while Daniel recovered from surgery. Jasmine had asked him to delay that meeting until he rested. He accused her of exceeding her role and dismissed her from the room. His mispricing error had opened the access path. "I signed the tool they used against you," he said. "You signed because your system taught everyone your speed mattered more than review. That does not reduce my responsibility." "No." He asked whether she hated him. "I do not build professional decisions around hatred." The answer denied him both easy punishment and easy forgiveness. Nico requested permission to examine the cuff injury on her wrist because bruising had darkened. Jasmine declined. A city nurse already documented it. He accepted the refusal. Trust grew through the boundary he did not cross. At midnight, Celia released an edited hospital video showing Jasmine entering Nico's recovery suite alone. The footage removed the second nurse, stationed beyond the door, and paired the image with access logs from the vault breach. News sites repeated the claim that Nico's lover stole family documents. Jasmine's Washington employer called to review the public allegations. She provided Brooks's witness confirmation and the independent body camera record. The employer kept her offer active. Her exit survived the villain's counteraction. Nico wanted to issue a statement denying romance. Jasmine stopped him. "Do not defend my competence by announcing whether you desired me. The question itself is the weapon." She prepared a clinical timeline instead. It showed where she worked, who witnessed her care when restraints began, and why the mirrored badge activity was impossible. At 6:00 a.m., the recovered access server produced one final record. Every mirror credential had been scheduled to expire at noon, immediately after the board sale. Once erased, the system would leave only the workers' names attached to the crimes. The emergency board meeting opened inside the Riverfront Rehabilitation Center at 10 the next morning. Celia sat at the head table beneath a glass wall overlooking the property scheduled for sale. She wore a pale pink suit and the expression of an executive correcting other people's disorder. Nico entered with no private guards. Jasmine arrived beside Brooks, wearing a structured teal coat over fresh scrubs. The bruises around her wrist remained visible because she would not hide the cost of the hospital's decision. Celia's attorney presented Daniel's original proxy inside a sealed portfolio. He argued the sale protected patients from a violent internal conflict caused by Nico's inappropriate relationship with a nurse. Jasmine's body, clothing, and private clinical access again appeared before her evidence. The chair allowed Celia to play the edited recovery suite video. Several board members avoided Jasmine's eyes. She waited until the presentation ended. "The presence or absence of attraction cannot open a vault," she said. "A master credential can." Brooks displayed the recovered access report through an independent forensic system. Jasmine explained the sequence in language every listener could follow. Her physical badge entered Vault 3, while she was recorded in restraints. An MR01 administrator created a mirror credential, forged a bedside presence token, and combined it with Teresa's family authorization. The mirrored badge opened Daniel's room, the pharmacy, the chapel, the records floor, and the vault. Its activity ended at noon, the exact deadline for the property sale. The report's plot function connected: patient movement, planted medication, stolen documents, and the board transaction. Its character function proved Jasmine understood credential continuity well enough to detect the impossible overlap. Celia said Ray alone controlled MR01. Brooks played his recorded statement and displayed messages from Celia's executive account. The evidence supported direction but still required authentication at trial. For governance purposes, it established enough conflict to suspend the sale. Celia's attorney produced Nico's signature authorizing mirror credentials. Jasmine did not hide it. "He signed the access path that harmed us," she said. "That is why no single leader should control credential exceptions." Nico stood. "I dismissed her request for review and signed because delay offended me. Every worker framed through that system paid for my arrogance." His admission cost him the defense that Ray and Celia acted outside everything he built. The board chair asked whether the proxy authorized the sale. Jasmine requested permission to examine the page count without breaking legal custody. An independent clerk displayed each page beneath verification light. Pages 1 through 9 contained embedded fibers from the secure print room. Page 10 did not. Its signature image had been copied from the renewal packet. Daniel's original proxy did not transfer his deciding vote to Celia. The replacement page manufactured authority for the sale. Celia lost control of her voice. "A nurse cannot authenticate corporate documents. I am not authenticating the legal," meaning Jasmine replied. "I am identifying the secure paper used during a consent process I witnessed." The board's document examiner confirmed the material difference. The sale paused pending formal review. Jasmine checked the time. Her Washington car would arrive in 50 minutes. She had completed the testimony she promised. Then every board member received an emergency alert from Valenti Memorial Hospital. 32 mirrored credentials had activated simultaneously across medication rooms, patient floors, and records archives. The scheduled expiration was not a cleanup. It was a final burst designed to manufacture hundreds of false actions before deletion. Contract workers would appear to be stealing moving patients and destroying files across the entire network. Celia claimed the activation proved Jasmine's group had coordinated sabotage. Jasmine recognized the trap's scale. If she left for Washington, independent responders could still shut down the mirrors, but they lacked a verified map connecting each false credential to its real worker and patient assignment. She had built that continuity system over 5 years. The hospital could freeze all access, but doing so would delay legitimate care. Jasmine asked the Washington recruiter for a 12-hour postponement. The employer agreed and kept her housing available. Her freedom exit remained real. She told Nico why she stayed. "I am not choosing your hospital or your family. I am choosing 32 workers whose names are about to become evidence against them." "What authority do you need?" he asked. "Independent clinical command, public investigators controlling the logs, and no Valenti override." Nico signed temporary transfer of credential authority to Dr. Shah and the city administrator. He surrendered his own emergency access until the incident ended. Jasmine directed verification teams rather than personally controlling systems under investigation. Each worker reported their physical location through a supervisor outside the compromised network. Clinical teams issued temporary paper access for essential care. Forensic staff preserved mirror activity without allowing it to control doors. Within 40 minutes, every patient floor remained operational, and every accused worker had an independent alibi. The system failure stopped harming the invisible people it targeted. Brooks traced the mass activation to a device inside Celia's portfolio. Her attorney claimed he had never seen it. Celia attempted to leave through the board's private elevator. City officers stopped her under a warrant issued from the recovered access evidence. She requested counsel and refused questions. The board suspended her from the medical trust and froze the rehabilitation sale. As officers escorted her out, Celia looked at Jasmine's bruised wrist. "He will replace you the moment this is over," she said. Jasmine glanced toward Nico. "That would require me to belong to him first." The credential crisis ended before sunset, but the institutional damage could not be closed with the servers. 32 workers had been selected because their jobs granted essential access without equivalent status. 6 were contract nurses. 5 transported patients. 4 cleaned restricted rooms. The others managed night records, pharmacy deliveries, food service equipment, repair, and temporary registration. The hospital had depended on their labor while leaving their reputations easy to sacrifice. Jasmine insisted each receive a written correction before any executive statement praised Valenti leadership. Nico agreed and placed the hospital communications office under independent review. Brooks summarized immediate consequences. Celia remained under investigation for credential fraud, patient endangerment, evidence manipulation, and conspiracy. Ray faced separate accountability for unlawful restraint, planted evidence, and unauthorized surveillance despite his cooperation. Teresa's role would be evaluated through evidence and clinical context rather than family secrecy. Daniel revoked every proxy created during his recovery and appointed an independent patient advocate. No one promised convictions before courts completed their work. Access and control changed immediately. The board cancelled the property sale and removed Celia from every trust position. Nico resigned his unilateral authority over hospital security and credential systems. He requested an external audit of his own signatures and private directives. The decision exposed him to civil claims and counsel criticism. It also prevented accountability from becoming another performance aimed at Jasmine. Her Washington car arrived outside the hospital at 8. The recruiter confirmed the position. Housing and clinical authority remained available. Jasmine packed the teal scrubs that had been torn during her detention into an evidence return bag. Her employment record was not yet fully corrected. Hospital counsel offered reinstatement, triple back pay, and a private apology if she signed confidentiality terms. She refused. Silence would preserve the same system for the next contract nurse, she said. The board chair asked what structural repair required. Jasmine proposed an independent office of credential integrity and clinical access. Its director would report to the full board, not family counsel, hospital security, or donor relations. The office would control issuance standards, audit mirrors, investigate conflicting access, and stop any credential when identity or consent remained disputed. Contract workers would receive the same notice appeal and evidence rights as permanent staff. Clinical safety teams could override locked doors during verified patient emergencies through independently logged authority. No single family signature could create a master exception. The director would hold hiring power, a voting, ethics, seat, audit access, and the right to refuse all Valenti commands. Nico supported every condition, but did not nominate Jasmine. The board approved the office before discussing who would lead it. That order ensured reform survived her refusal. The chair asked whether Jasmine would accept a 1-year term. Washington offered a clean beginning without Valenti history. The new office offered damaged workers, resistant executives, and direct authority to correct the system she understood better than anyone. Jasmine requested 24 hours and left in the Washington car as planned. She traveled far enough to prove nobody had trapped her through urgency. At a hotel outside Baltimore, she reviewed both contracts with independent counsel. The Valenti offer lacked relocation debt, security conditions, and non-compete restrictions. It granted her right to leave without Nico's approval. She added employee-elected oversight and external forensic review. The board accepted the amendments by morning. Jasmine chose to return for the work not because her exit had failed. When she entered Valenti Memorial again, no guards searched her. The same VIP lobby where donors filmed her in cuffs now held a public staff meeting. Nico stood beside the board rather than at the podium. The chair read the investigation's confirmed timeline and cleared Jasmine of theft, unauthorized access, and patient misconduct. The hospital named the public detention evidence planting and sexualized rumors as institutional retaliation. Jasmine then addressed the workers. "A badge is not trust," she said. "It is one tool inside a system that must verify the person, the purpose, the patient, and the consent behind every door. When authority uses your name without your voice, the system is not secure." The board appointed her independent director of credential integrity and clinical access. She received signature authority, a voting seat audit control, and the power to suspend executive credentials, including Nico's. That was a visible power transfer rather than a romantic reward. Nico approached only after the meeting ended. "May I speak with you?" "Here, with the door open." He apologized for authorizing isolation before hearing her allowing Ray to define protection and treating her earlier safeguards as delay. He did not blame fear or family pressure. "I handed a man the power to put you in cuffs," he said. "Yes, I cannot undo that." "No. I can make sure your authority no longer depends on whether I trust you." Jasmine looked at the board resolution already filed beyond his reach. "That is the first useful thing you have offered." He accepted the limited recognition without asking for forgiveness. Then Daniel entered the corridor under his own power and handed Jasmine the original 9-page proxy. "You remembered the page count when everyone else remembered only who owned the building," he said. Jasmine returned the document to his independent advocate. Ownership was never the same as custody. Jasmine's new office replaced the private security suite beside the hospital's main access center. The first wall displayed no Valenti crest. It carried a simple notice explaining how every worker could challenge activity recorded under their name. She hired an external credential engineer, 2 clinical access nurses, an employee advocate, and a forensic records specialist. 3 positions were reserved for workers elected from contract and night shift teams. The office reviewed all 32 mirror cases before creating any new executive credential. Workers framed by the activation received corrected records, lost wages, independent counsel, and written evidence packages they could use outside Valenti employment. Jasmine refused confidentiality language attached to compensation. Her own nursing license and personnel file were restored publicly. The hospital returned her real badge after forensic proceedings no longer required it. She placed it inside a glass evidence drawer rather than wearing it. Her new credential carried a different number, independent board authority, and no master override controlled by the family. Ray's surveillance archive exposed years of private access used without clinical consent. Affected patients received notification and support through an external review team. Celia and Ray continued through legal proceedings, where cooperation, coercion, and individual choices could be evaluated proportionately. Teresa entered counseling and resigned her board role. She apologized to Daniel and Jasmine without requesting immediate absolution. Daniel continued rehabilitation under Dr. Shah and his independent advocate. Nico attended every security audit requested by Jasmine, including those examining his own conduct. He no longer cleared patient floors to protect privacy. He followed visitor rules, waited for consent, and allowed public officers to control investigations involving the hospital. Those choices mattered, because Jasmine did not always witness them. Their attraction remained present beneath professional conflict, but neither treated crisis gratitude as romance. Jasmine overruled his credential requests when they lacked independent justification. He disagreed, without threatening funding or invoking family ownership. 4 months after the board meeting, Nico requested a personal appointment after office hours. Jasmine moved it to a Saturday cafe because she would not mix courtship with institutional authority. He arrived alone and chose a public table. "I would like to take you to dinner," he said. What happens if I say no? Your budget, vote, access authority, and safety plan remain exactly the same. Do you ask again? Only if you reopen the subject. The answer created a consequence-free refusal. Jasmine studied the man who once viewed locked doors and armed control as proof of care. One dinner, she said. No private dining room, no guards beside us, and no assumption about the next one. Agreed. Their first dinner contained no confession large enough to erase what happened. Nico asked about her decision to become a nurse. Jasmine told him about her mother, a night cleaner blamed when an executive lost confidential files inside a locked office. The experience taught Jasmine that low-status workers often carried the burden of systems they did not control. Nico admitted his father built Valenti security around suspicion rather than shared accountability. Understanding the inheritance does not excuse continuing it, Jasmine said. I know. He asked permission before walking her to her car. At the curb, he offered his hand but did not close the distance. Jasmine placed her palm against his for a moment and withdrew first. The next morning, he did not treat contact as an agreement she had never made. Their relationship developed through ordinary proof. Nico supported employee-elected board seats, even when those members opposed him. Jasmine acknowledged his disclosures when they created real cost. He shared fear without turning it into a command for protection. She accepted help only when it respected the safety plan chosen by her entire staff. At the one-year audit, credential conflicts had fallen sharply, and no worker retaliation remained hidden through family counsel. The independent board made Jasmine's office permanent and expanded it across the rehabilitation network. She received veto authority over access-related acquisitions and ownership of the training program through an employee cooperative. Nico did not participate in the appointment vote. The same rehabilitation center once targeted for sale became the site of the public audit. Daniel attended with Teresa and his patient advocate. The 32 framed workers occupied the front rows, rather than waiting behind executives. Jasmine presented the findings herself. She explained how one altered badge connected a missing patient, planted medication, stolen proxies, copied identities, and a property deadline. The report had exposed the plot because its times conflicted with her documented restraints. Her competence had exposed the conflict because she understood what the credential should have proved. The board chair asked whether Nico wished to add anything. He declined. The director has already explained the system better than anyone who owned it, he said. After the meeting, Jasmine returned to the hospital's former isolation room. The bed had been removed, and the space was becoming a worker rights consultation office. The old cuff anchor remained attached to one wall pending renovation. Nico stopped at the doorway. May I come in? Yes. He stood beside her without touching the anchor. I used to believe opening the door would have been enough. Opening it ends the immediate confinement. Removing the power to close it without review prevents the next one. Jasmine looked at him with quiet approval. He had learned the difference between rescue and reform. Outside night staff crossed the lobby beneath cameras governed by rules they could challenge. Jasmine's name appeared on the office directory as an authority, not a scandal. Nico asked whether he could walk her to dinner. You may walk beside me, she said. He offered his hand and waited. She accepted because her freedom no longer depended on what he believed. The altered badge remained in police evidence, ordinary plastic, carrying the trace of every door opened under a woman's stolen identity. It proved that access without consent was not trust, protection without accountability was not safety, and romance without the right to refuse was only another locked room.